one of the great passages in the Bible that talks about who Jesus is, what he's about, is Hebrews chapter 12, particularly verses 1 and 2 and 3. It builds on the idea of Hebrews chapter 11, which is called the Great Hall of Faith passage, where you have all the heroes of the Old Testament period and how they were such men of God and women of God and people of faith and took great risk. And the author of Hebrews then uses that in Hebrews 12 as the kind of platform by which he encourages us. And I want to share just a few verses with you. It says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses," and those witnesses would be those that were mentioned in chapter 11, as well as everybody who's passed on and gone into heaven since the beginning of time, for that matter. Anyway, such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and run with perseverance the race marked out for us. And one of the broken patterns that the author is really addressing is our fear versus our faith. Because he's talking about faith primarily in this whole section. He says, let us fix... Okay, so how do I do that, right? He says, let us fix our eyes on Jesus. And then he names a quality, two qualities really of Jesus. And it's kind of who he is, how he's wired, and what he does in us. He says, let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and the perfecter of our faith. The author and the perfecter of our faith. It kind of is like the Apostle John when he writes that Jesus is the Alpha and the Omega. It's that same idea, that Jesus begins the faith and even our faith. He's the author of it. It's in his design. It's a part of how he moves and has his being in our lives. He's the author of our faith. He's the one who begins it and births all the things, all the dreams that you have in you to do. He's the birth of that. He's the author of them. And then he's the finisher. He's the one who, that word means complete or bring to perfection. He's the one who's the author and the finisher of our faith. So we can depend on him. No matter how big the giant strides that you're trying to take in your faith are, no matter how large they are, no matter what it is that you're trying to do for the kingdom of God, Jesus is the author and the finisher and the perfecter of our faith. And he does it out of a heart of joy for you. He is super, super stoked for you to take giant strides of faith and not let fear hinder you, but let your faith build and grow. He's the author and the finisher of it. He knows what he's doing. So follow him with all your might. Don't worry about what's going to happen or how it's going to work. God's got it. That's who he is. He's both the author and the perfecter. So what are you doing for God? Do it. Run this race with endurance that's marked out before us. Run in faith, not fear.